Chaining is a very powerful mechanic in Doodle World that could let players get almost anything they want, but I could bet you not a single one of you knows exactly how chaining works. But if I'm wrong and you don't learn a single thing in this video about chaining, let me know in the comments below and I'll cry about it. I should probably start things off in this video by explaining what chaining is. And at its core, it's really simple. You just knock out one species of Doodle repeatedly. If you knock out any other species or catch anything at all, including the thing you're chaining, your chain will break and you lose on all the benefits. What are the benefits? Well, there's actually quite a few of them. You will get an increased encounter rate, an increased misprint rate, an increased hidden trait rate, an increased skin rate, and an increased star rate on the Doodle you are chaining. Yeah, there's a lot, but each benefit works a little bit differently, and that's the point of this video. I'm going to start things off by going over the mechanics of the encounter rate benefit of chaining. So for every 10 Doodles you add to your chain, which is the same thing as knocking out 10 Doodles, you add a 10% chance to the encounter rate of that Doodle. So for example, moss has a base encounter rate of 1%. If you were to chain 10 mosses, from the 11th point on, you have an 11% chance of encountering moss. And that will keep going up until you get to a 50% encounter rate. Anything at or above 50% encounter rate will not benefit from this, so the encounter rate caps at 50%. I will mention that mythical Doodles benefit differently from this encounter mechanic, and I will go over those later. Moving on to the mechanics behind the misprint benefit. First off, misprints have a base encounter rate of 1 in 4,000. But for every 10 you add to your chain, you add 1 to that numerator. So for example, if you chain 60 mosses, well, we're already using it, so let's use it as an example. You are adding 6 to that numerator. So now you have a 7 in 4,000 chance of encountering a misprint moss. And that benefit will continue indefinitely. There is no cap. So you could theoretically chain your way to a guaranteed misprint moss. As for hidden traits that have a 1 in 200 chance of appearing, for every 20 you add to your chain, you will add 1 to that numerator. So going back to that 60 chain for moss we had earlier, using that, we have now a 4 in 200 chance of encountering a hidden trait moss. This benefit also stacks indefinitely, so you can chain your way to a guaranteed hidden trait moss. Now the mechanics behind the skin benefit of chaining work a little bit differently. Skins have a base 1 in 1,000 encounter rate, but every Doodle you add to your chain reduces that 1,000 by 1. So going back to our 60 moss chain we're using as an example, with that chain we now have a 1 in 940 chance of encountering a moss with a skin. Now this benefit does have a cap. Once you reach a chain of 900, you have a 1 in 100 chance of finding a skin, and that is the highest you can go with the skin benefit. Now, reaching a 900 chain is crazy, but I've been streaming my rosebug hunt. % chance to encounter them. Unless it's a mythical, then you can get it up to 1 in 30. It's a prestige! Oh my god, it's a prestige and a misprint. No, I could have caught this in the wild. That's so cool, though. I'm hunting for something very specific. And I've reached a 1,000 chain. So if you want to check out my hunting streams, subscribe, have the notification bell hit so you're notified when I do go live. But anyway, moving on. Now the mechanic when it comes to stars in chaining work a little bit differently than the others. Yeah, you can use chaining to find better stars, but instead of increasing the rate at better stars periodically, you have breakpoints that just remove lower stars from appearing. So for example, a chain of 25, all Doodles you find will at least be 2 stars. And then again at 50, the lowest amount of stars you can find is actually 3. And then capping at 75, the lowest amount of stars you can find at that point is 4 stars. And for those wondering about tints, tints are actually not affected at all by chaining. They have a base 1/500 encounter rate, and you cannot influence that whatsoever. Now going back to the mythical Doodles I mentioned earlier, their mechanics work pretty much entirely differently. Mythical Doodles have a base encounter rate of 1 in 800, but for every mythical Doodle you find, it divides that encounter rate by your chain. So finding one Glubby your encounter rate is still 1 in 800. Find 2 Glubbies, get a chain of 2, your encounter rate is now 1 in 400, and this trend continues until you get to a chain of 6, at which point your encounter rate for mythicals is roughly 1 in 133. Now when it comes to the other benefits, misprint, hidden trait, and skin, chaining a mythical doodle counts as chaining 10 of a normal doodle. So if you have a chain of 6 Glubbies, you actually have a chain of 60 in regards to the other bonuses. The mechanics work the same, it's just you're adding 10 instead of 1. So there you have it, all the mechanics behind chaining, all confirmed by Wish. If you want to hear more from me, make sure you subscribe, and if you like the video, well, like the video. I also have a Twitter and Discord, both of those linked in the description. Check those out if you want more from me. And with that said, hopefully y'all enjoyed, and I'll see you on another video.